Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Mornings, and we are live. And I am Katie Halper.
And I'm Maté.
Good Monday morning. Good morning, Monday morning. As
good
Chuck
Monday
Todd
morning.
says about good Sunday morning. This is the Monday mornings where we talk about the Sunday morning shows that we watch so that you don't have to. So you're welcome, everyone. And we have a couple of announcements. One is that you may not know this, but if you want to hear this audio, you can become Substack subscribers, and we give you the audio. And that's a perk of being a Substack subscriber. You get to hear this in audio as opposed to just watching it, although we love that you watch it, but some people prefer listening. So again, if you want to hear this as a podcast, you just become Substack subscribers. So that's one announcement, and we've been doing that for a few weeks now. But also, another announcement is that Aaron and I both do this thing called Call In, where we take people's calls. It's a cool program. You download it onto your phone. It's free. It's a free app, Call In. And it lets people literally like call in through their app and speak to people and ask questions. And now we are launching a Useful Idiots call in, which means that right after this, you're going to be full of questions, comments, dying to know certain things, dying to express certain things. And guess what? You don't have to just journal that. You don't have to just call your friends and say, I wish I could ask Aaron Maté this. I wish I could ask Katie Halper that. You can actually call in and ask us questions. So if you don't have the Call-In app, just download it onto your phone right here. If you have an iPhone, it works. If you don't have an iPhone, you can't do that. But the good news is that you now can at least listen in on the browser. So you just click on the website. It's in the YouTube description, and you call in. And anything else that you want to say about that?
Well, what comes to mind for me, I don't know if you saw this viral video last week of Jim Jones of the Dipset gang. He was in the Gucci store, and he wasn't getting proper service. No one was bringing him champagne. He was upset. And so anyway, he has a song. One of his most famous songs is called Ballin'. And the chorus, he just goes, Ballin'. So today I'm saying, call in.
There you go. I was hoping you'd say that. That was all. This whole thing was just a setup for that. Yeah. So we're very excited. Call in. And so very, very excited.
We're already getting such positive response to that I'm going to just repeat that every single 5 minutes on the show today.
Yeah.
People just love that so much. Love hearing me say that.
Yeah. And if you're Substack subscribers, you'll get to hear this without Aaron's call in interventions. Yeah.
But Katie, we do actually have some bad news to report this week for all of the Monday morning fans, which is that, and we're starting bringing this news, but this week, unfortunately, we are not going to be able to bring you any Meet the Press Chuck Todd content because Meet the Press, to the outrage of millions of fans across America, was preempted this week by Olympic coverage. So we have no MTP this week.
That's why I was feeling a little off today. All of yesterday, actually, because I'm used to having that. It really grounds me. Yeah. So no Chuck Todd for this week, but we're going to power through. Luckily, we have so many other shows. Where would we be without other war promoting, warmongering, fear-mongering shows? It's nice to have backups because, as you can see, sometimes things will interrupt other shows. And luckily, Meet the Press is not the only show that provides us with platitudes, warmongering. What else? What else would you like to acknowledge Chuck Todd for?
I want to acknowledge Chuck Todd for being our number one fan on Substack, usefulidiots.substack.com. If you want to join Chuck Todd in supporting us and making sure we can bring you Monday morning every week, go there, usefulidiots.substack.com.
Yeah, do it for Tuck and because of Tuck. Join Tuck. Yeah, that's what we want to say. And also, we also want to remind people to subscribe to this channel. It's free. You just hit subscribe. Also, everyone like this stream right now. Pause what you're doing. Hit the like. Smash the like and like the smash button. Yeah. So I think that's it, right? We hit all the high points, the low points.
We hit all the low points, and now it's time for the high points.
Yes.
A guy named B. Stealth.
So here's to the future because we got through the past. I finally find somebody who could make me laugh. You're so crazy. I think I want to have your baby. That is, you're not the only one who can quote music, Aaron.
Hip-hop,
and that
yeah.
was
who was
Salt
that?
and Pepper from Shoop.
I should have gotten that one.
Yeah.
I should have gotten that one. Yeah.
All right. You'll redeem yourself through your savvy political analysis, which is almost as good as your Salt and Pepper, which almost compensates for your Salt and Pepper ignorance. Okay.
I'll try.
All right. So what do we got? Let's see. We got a great, you know what we're going to open with, guys? We're going to open with the Stealth. So we wanted to show this first because as once again, Brian Stelter, sometimes he gives us tools that we can apply to all of our media analysis. So he really does support media literacy. So we want to start off by giving you these great tools. Okay.
Successful movement leaders and militaries are like media moguls in that they know the power of images and visuals and information. But I think we all know that images are not always what they appear to be. So we have to apply a skeptical eye, not cynical, but skeptical. For example, take these videos of Russian forces, dramatic scenes of Russian tanks rolling through fields, the kinds of shots that Vladimir Putin wants everyone to see. It's critical that newsrooms tell the audience what this is and where it came from. That's why there's a label in the corner of the screen saying these images are from the Russian Ministry of Defense. If they're not put in context, if they're just wallpapered on TV all day, then they're just propaganda. And that's true about Ukrainian footage or US footage too. Think about it like this. When looking at a photo, try to imagine the photographer or the videographer on the other side of the frame and think what motivated the photo? Who wants this to be seen and who doesn't? Or who's trying to stay out of the picture? The same questions apply to other forms of information too. The United States keeps releasing bits of secret intelligence about the Kremlin's alleged plans. It seems the idea is to aim to avert a Russian attack by leaking the plans in advance. At one point, U.S. officials predicted that the Russians would release a staged video to justify a military invasion. So predicting a false flag ahead of time. As the New York Times put it, the Biden administration is warning the world of an urgent threat, not to make the case for a war, but to try to prevent one.
All right, pause it there.
So there are two layers of questions there. Is the intel?
Do you want to know what I love about this lecture about, being mindful of propaganda is that that line right there, the administration is warning the world of an urgent threat, not to make the case for a war, but to try to prevent one. That literally is the exact line from Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, on Friday. He stood up at the White House podium and said, we're not trying to make the case for a war. So this isn't like Iraq. We're trying to prevent one.
Right.
And so the Times is just repeating that as a state propaganda organ. And now Brian Stelter is as well.
That's amazing. And, it's really great because who is this quoting? It's
Julian Barnes and Helen Cooper of the New York Times, who are like the Times top national security.
Right. Helen Cooper is that's her beat, is the Pentagon, right? So it's nice to see literally that, we often say that they're stenographers, but here is a case where it's in plain sight. They're quoting, he's quoting them and they're quoting Sullivan, but they're not openly quoting him, right? They're just using the same language.
They're just parroting,
right? Parroting.
Their jobs effectively are to be spokespeople for the government.
Right. Well, we should be seeing is, in effect, blah, 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 blah. Jake Sullivan told Julian Barnes and Helen Cooper.
Sure. And what this article also buries at the bottom is there's a line, as there always is now. They have to include this somewhere, just not at the top, which they say that, by the way, the administration has provided no evidence for any of its disclosures, quote unquote. And the point there is that if a disclosure is made with no evidence, then it's not a disclosure. It's propaganda.
Yeah, right.
That's what propaganda is.
Yeah.
And everyone in media in these perches just loves to repeat it, just loves to parrot it.
It's so embarrassing. Okay. Let's keep going.
How accurate, and why is it being shared? Skepticism has to apply to other types of conflicts as well, like the convoy of trucks in Canada that has captured tremendous right-wing media attention in the US. Phony letters, false stories, exaggerated memes have blanketed the web when it comes to a very real story about a real convoy. The lies actually hurt the cause of the anti-vaccine mandate protesters. But there's been lots of fact-checking to do. And that's why in Canada, too, the visuals have to be scrutinized. This is a video of protesters in Ottawa. You see people power in action, strength in numbers. But it's important to zoom out, too, like that. for a more realistic view of those numbers. Apply a skeptical eye, no matter the story, no matter the conflict, no matter the place.
No matter the story, no matter the conflict, no matter the place.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah. Media skepticism is hot right now. Ever since Matt Lee was called a Russian sympathizer at the State Department, now everybody else, like Brian Stelter, has to pretend that they're skeptical journalists too. It's a cool fad. I can't wait to see how long it lasts. I'm giving it another, I don't know, week or two.
Yeah, it's great. And we need to be skeptical of why the United States is doing what it does. And now we know it's to prevent war.
That's right.
It's so good to know. It makes everything makes so much sense now. All right. Well, thank you, Brian, for your words of wisdom. And by the way, this is just, someone said that they can participate in the chat here and not in the Katie Halper show. I don't know what that's about. I don't block anyone from the Katie Halper show. So if that's true, write to me on Patreon, because I saw that you're the person who said that is a Patreon person. So give me a message. We'll work it out. Okay, back to our regular scheduled program. Who do we got up next? We got a Face the Nation clip. So that was reliable sources on CNN. Now we're shifting gears, going to Face the Nation. And boy, do we have a lot of nation to face.
And we're back. Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, who is one of 2 Republican members on the committee investigating the January 6th insurrection. Good morning,
Face the neocons.
Face the neocons.
Good morning.
I want to start on what is happening most immediately between Russia and Ukraine. You have these massive Russian military exercises. How do you assess the Biden administration's handling of this situation so far?
Yeah, look, I'm on Team America, Team Ukraine. There are some nuances I would have done different than the Biden administration, but I think now is the time to stand unified. And what I'd say is they have done a good job, particularly in bringing out intel early to try to defang any.
Is Team America, Team Ukraine, is that going to be a special team at the Olympics?
That should be.
Are they going to be competing together in special competitions? Team America, Team Ukraine?
It could be Team USA Crane.
Team USA Crane. Okay. Yeah. Go for the gold.
Go for the gold. Yeah. It also sounds kind of like a dinosaur. USA Crane. Anyway. Yeah, we should do that. I like that.
Narrative that could come with Ukraine. We know about the discussion of a false flag attack. Well, now we've made it clear that Russia may do that. And so I think a lot of that is good. One thing I will add, though, is we have to shut down Nord Stream 2 regardless of what happens in Ukraine.
Gotta shut it down.
Because Ukraine is using energy as a weapon, and I think that's important to do.
Russia is
Freudian
using...
slip.
Oh, a little slip there. A little slip there, Adam. Sorry. And of course, Margaret has to come
to shut down Nord Stream 2 regardless of what happens in Ukraine, because Ukraine is using energy as a weapon, and I think that's important to do.
Russia is using energy as a weapon.
Yes, that's what I mean.
That's what I mean. That's what my script says. Sorry, I read it wrong. Sorry, that's what I meant.
Sorry.
Thanks for correcting me.
I meant to say, yeah, I got my Team Ukraine talking points messed up with my my note card that says we are Team Ukraine. Got messed up with my note card that says Russia's using energy as a weapon. Yeah.
And this is what I love. They can't hide their agenda, how much they want to shut down this Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline.
Yeah.
And from the outside, it's like, why do you guys care so much about a pipeline? Why do you keep talking about a pipeline that's not in U.S. borders? It's between Germany and Russia. And just simply, they hate the fact that this pipeline will further integrate Russia into the rest of Europe. They don't want that. And so even though nothing has happened yet, except for Russia moving troops inside its own borders and to Belarus, just as the U.S. moves troops to everywhere in Eastern Europe that's in NATO and conducts massive exercises on Russia's borders, because of that alone, now they're saying, we got to shut down Nord Stream 2, cancel the pipeline, stop it from flowing. And that's what it's all about.
It's different, Aaron, because when they do it, they're doing it for bad. And when we're doing it, we're using energy for good.
Team USA, Team Ukraine.
Team USA, Team Ukraine.
On Russia, generally, there had been for so long bipartisan support for standing up to Russia and standing up for democracies. But there is this interesting trend within the conservative movement right now. You have more Trump-oriented parts of the party, like Senator Josh Hawley, who recently called on President Biden to rule out admitting Ukraine into NATO. You have similar sentiments elsewhere. What is happening here? I mean, how significant a portion of the Republican Party is moving in this direction?
What's happening here is that Democrats, because they came Russiagate fanatics, especially after 2016, but even going back to 2014, when the Biden-Obama administration sparked a coup backed a coup in Ukraine that set off this whole mess, is Democrats have gone increasingly to the right when it comes to Russia, and the MAGA crowd has seized the opportunity because they at least have the sense to know that a lot of people in America don't want to be fighting wars, don't want to be sending their kids off to wars. So they've painted themselves as being the real kind of anti-intervention voice when it comes to a Cold War with Russia. And they've taken advantage of the serious void that Democrats have left, which has then seeded opportunity for people like this guy who's a Republican to come in and ingratiate himself with Democrats and push Democrats even more to the right. And I think push them even more to electoral defeat, because for some reason, most Americans don't wake up every day thinking about how we can send more weapons to Ukraine and how we can further inflame a proxy war that the Obama-Biden administration started back in 2014.
Well, speak for yourself, because that's how I wake up. I go to bed wondering how we can arm neo-Nazis, and I wake up wondering the other thing. Also, someone pointed out, I'm sorry I didn't read your comment in real time, but why is his collar so big? Which is a worthy question. We got to apply that. We're doing analysis of images thanks to Brian Stelter, so we got to look at that collar. It is a little bit big. And speaking of military and the kind of jingoism that's being invoked right now, Joseph Clark writes, "I'm so insulted at what these Democrats get away with. As a veteran, I'm further insulted by the fact I saw young men get military prison for making a mistake on forms." So, interesting perspective. And by the way, on a related note, if you want to hear Aaron talk about the way that the right wing has been able to kind of provide an anti-war, and I know that Tucker Carlson is not a pacifist. I know he's not an internationalist, but sadly, the liberal media is such a vacuum on this issue. Aaron talks about why he went on Tucker Carlson in our Substack for last week. So make sure you join that for that talk alone. It's very good. Also, you're going to hear about Aaron Maté's acting debut.
Oh, that's some hot content right there. Wow.
Hot content, which may explain his anti-war perspective. I'm not going to give it away too much, but just so you know, he's probably atoning for some pro-war propaganda.
Let's just say that I have military experience of my own.
Yeah, he does.
When I played a general in a toy ad when I was 9 years old.
Yeah. You're gonna want to see it.
And that's at usefulidiots.substack.com.
Yeah.
Your one-stop shop for all your Useful Idiot bonus content.
Yes. All right. Let's go back to the Kins.
Well, I don't think it's a huge portion, but it's way too big and it's growing, and it's a huge concern. I mean,
it just came to me. If he runs for president, right, he'd be the 47th president, right? Because that's next. Because Biden right now is 46, right? He can nickname himself AK-47.
Whoa.
Isn't that good?
That's good. Yeah, that's really good. Are we sending any AK-47s to Ukraine?
Well, I believe the AK-47 is initially a Russian weapon. So I don't know if we're allowed to promote Russian weapons, even though everyone likes the AK-47. Yeah, you know what? I'm sure we have sent AK-47s.
Yeah, we've thrown in a couple.
Because a big part of the whole U.S. racket is using Soviet weaponry that they've acquired, that they bought off NATO states, either by absorbing them into NATO or just like the black market, and shipping them off to dirty war zones. Like they did that in Syria. A lot of Soviet weaponry went to Syrian rebels via the U.S., via the largesse of U.S. taxpayers.
Yeah, it's called paying it forward, Aaron.
Yeah. Back to AK-47.
What was this, 5 years ago? It might be like somebody like Rand Paul that would say something, or Dana Rohrabacher. Now there's a significant number of folks doing it, with Tucker Carlson talking about, how great Vladimir Putin is and how Ukraine is really actually part of Russia. I think it's a couple things. Number one, it could be.
Yeah, I've never heard Tucker Carlson or any Republican say that Ukraine is part of Russia and Vladimir Putin is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway. You'd know because you've spoken to Tucker.
I've spoken to Tucker on TV. Yes. I mean, I haven't caught all of his shows, but I'm pretty sure he's never said any of that. But anyway.
Yeah.
Some naivety on foreign policy, not in Tucker's case. I think it's
naivety. You know, okay, this is the guy, by the way, who called Bashar al-Assad the butcher of Baghdad. Okay, so speaking of naivete, and Baghdad, Adam, just FYI, is actually not in Syria. It's in the neighboring country of Iraq, just to check your...
Yeah, but your mistake is that you don't realize he's a pan-Arabist, and so he was intentionally doing that.
Right, okay, yes, he's a...
And an internationalist, yeah.
An affection for authoritarianism. And I think Vladimir Putin has done a decent job of engaging in culture battles, in culture war. And he is seen as the person defending, in essence, the culture of the past. And so it's very frightening. And by the way, you know, Ukraine is next, sure. Already 1/3 of the country of Georgia is occupied by Russia. Nobody's going to stop them from going into the rest of that. Then you have the Baltics, you have the Balkans that they're interfering in. This is a frightening moment. And any Republican that has affection for Vladimir Putin has no understanding of what our party stands for or our country stands for.
So he's saying that Vladimir Putin is going to invade not just Ukraine, but the Baltics and everywhere else. This is so stupid. This is the dumbest stuff.
The domino theory.
Yeah. Look, he's barely used Russian military power in neighboring Ukraine, even though he's been backing a separatist force there for the last 8 years. They haven't used their air power. They've provided basically some light weapons to allied forces in Ukraine. So the idea that he's going to not just invade Ukraine, but invade elsewhere is just, it's so moronic. It's so stupid. And great comment, Mark Devine.
Yes.
This Monday show with Aaron and Katie should be called Base the Nation.
It should be, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll call Monday mornings, Base the Nation.
When it comes to what your party stands for, you are on that January 6th committee, as we mentioned. Rudy Giuliani, the president's attorney, former attorney, is apparently speaking to the committee in some form. Is he being cooperative at this point? What can you tell us about that?
Well, what I can tell you is he's been subpoenaed. Our expectation is he is going to cooperate because that's the law. That's the requirement. Same as if somebody's subpoenaed to court. There may be some changes in dates and moments here as, you know, lawyers do their back and forth, but we fully expect that in accordance with the law, we'll hear from Rudy. But look, regardless of when we hear from Rudy or how long that interview is, we're getting a lot of information, and we're looking forward to wrapping this up at some point when that is right, showing it to the American people, but not rushing it, not hurrying this. We want everybody to have the full story. That's what's important. I have a new son. I want to make sure that in 5 and 10 years when he's learning about this in history class, he gets the full answer and not some conspiracy garbage that we hear out there every day.
Is the plan still to begin those public hearings?
Do it for the children, everybody. January 6th Commission. Support the January 6th Commission. If not for you, if not for democracy, do it for the kids.
Do it for at least for AK's kid, AK-47's kid. We got to find out his name because we need Team US, Team America, Team Ukraine, Team Adam Jr.
In the spring?
Aaron, you missed my joke. I said Russian. He was saying
Russian.
I
got it.
Oh, you got it.
And that time frame is the hope. Basically, we want to be able to take this information and present it to the American people, not just in a report, which is going to be essential, but in people, in faces, and in stories.
Kind of like how they presented the Robert Mueller report to such success when Robert Mueller came before Congress. That was a huge hit. And that's when the American people really woke up to the giant Trump-Russia conspiracy that Mueller somehow found, even though he didn't charge anybody for it. So I can't wait for the January 6th to come to life when that thing finally ends, whenever that is.
Team America, Team Ukraine, Team Adam Jr., Team 1-6 Commission. Commish. Yeah.
Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said this week in very clear terms that January.
We can move on from AK-47 now, I think.
All right, but shout out to Poborabukal. We too are an AK-47. All right, let's see what's next. What do we got next?
And hello again from Fox News in Washington. Stark warnings from the White House as the chill of a potential new Cold War hangs over Eastern Europe. The U.S. and Western allies working to deter a full-fledged invasion of Ukraine by Russia, one that could happen at any moment. In response, the White House ordering 3,000 more U.S. troops to Poland and telling Americans still in Ukraine to leave before it's too late. In a moment, we'll discuss the situation with Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby. We begin with Fox team coverage. Trey Yangster on the ground in Ukraine and his conversation with the Ukrainian president. But first to Rich Edson at the White House. Rich.
Sandra, the United States is telling Americans in Ukraine it is past time to leave the country, as President Biden warns Russian President Vladimir Putin of swift and severe consequences if Russia invades Ukraine.
The cost to Russia, both in terms of reputational cost and economic cost, would be profound.
Though Russian troops have effectively surrounded Ukraine, as American officials warn any invasion of Ukraine could come at any time, even before the Olympics end next week.
Now, we can't pinpoint the day at this point, and we can't pinpoint the hour.
The White House says President Biden spoke with Russian President.
So, okay, I've lost track. First, they said it was imminent. Right. That was for a couple of weeks. It was imminent. Then now they're saying it could happen at any time. Now they're also saying it could happen before the end of the Olympics. And if that doesn't happen, it will happen. But it could happen before the end of the Teen Choice Awards. I think that's the latest one.
Yeah. And what about the VMA?
And or the VMAs? Yes.
Could happen during the. What would really be scary, and I think this is not outside the realm of possibility, is what we're going to see is a strike during the VMA Awards. When all America's eyes are on that amazing award ceremony.
Yeah. If the organizers of the Teen Choice Awards are watching, I just want you to just please hear my plea. Do not cower to Russia. Keep the Teen Choice Awards on stage. We cannot let Putin win.
Yeah, keep the Teen Choice Awards on stage. But also at the same time, if there is an attack during the Teen Choice Awards, which is something Russia, that's so Russia.
Classic
that would be
Russia,
so Russia to do. Yeah. So if that happens, make sure you keep the award ceremony. But what should they do? Have Brian Stelter come on stage to cover it?
Well, Brian Stelter will probably be there accepting his award for favorite Teen Choice Award, cable news host, media critic.
Right.
So it would be appropriate time for him to say a few words.
It would be. Yeah. Also, we can teach the children how to teach the kids how to engage in media criticism and literacy. So it's a win-win. You're welcome, America.
Yeah.
We just planned how to protect our youth, our culture, our music, our teens.
And make sure that Adam
Putin
for
about an hour Saturday.
Yes.
To learn, along with the rest of the children. Yeah.
But officials say the conversation offered no fundamental change in the dynamics, and the State Department is evacuating most of the U.S. Embassy staff still in Ukraine.
We're continuing to draw down our embassy. We've also been very clear that any American citizens who remain in Ukraine should leave now.
A senior defense official says the U.S. is sending 3,000 additional soldiers to Poland, joining 1,700 already dispatched there. The goal, to reassure NATO allies and deter any potential aggression against NATO's eastern flank. The White House.
Yeah, okay, so this is hilarious. So I love this. Basically, they can't send soldiers to Ukraine because that's madness, because they're not going to fight Russia. And they actually know Russia's not going to invade. So instead, they're sending soldiers to other countries where no one thinks that Russia is going to invade Poland.
Aaron, can you say with 100% certainty that there's no possibility? I can't say that. I can't say with 100% certainty that God doesn't exist.
That's true. It's true. We don't know. That's true. I guess
I don't know. Aaron, you could be planning to invade Poland. I can't say with 100% certainty that you're not.
I might be. But I just if I was one of these soldiers who was being shipped off, separated from my family for a PR stunt to go to Poland, just to sit there and just to make it seem as if the U.S. is acting tough, I'd be pretty annoyed.
I hope. Yeah. What do you think the accommodations are like?
You go to a military base of some kind. It's probably not horrible, but probably not too fancy.
No, it's probably not very nice. That's the thing. If I could, I think Poland has some nice sanatoria and stuff like that. That would be nice if I were going to be sent there, but they're not. You know what they should do? They should have an army they should have special like troops of people who are having marital problems who actually need an excuse to get away. Then it wouldn't be so bad.
That could be a pretty strong force. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Pretty strong force. Yeah, they'd be happy to be sent. Yeah. But barring that, it's pretty unfair.
The divorce force.
The divorce force. Yes.
Yeah. God, a lot of problem solving today. A lot of great ideas coming from the useful idiots today. All right.
So great. Yeah.
Has stressed no American troops will fight in Ukraine. Russia has complained about its security with any NATO expansion. Russia already invaded Ukraine in 2014 and seized Crimea. It also attacked neighboring Georgia in 2008. Senior administration official says the U.S.
It invaded Crimea after there was a coup in 2000. And this is the part on TV you can never mention. It's vetoed from history. You cannot mention that the U.S. backed a coup in Ukraine that would have installed that did install a NATO-friendly government that was talking about joining NATO, which would have meant that Russia's most important naval base in Crimea would have threatened to come under NATO control. And that's when Russia reacted by invading. And you also can't mention that when Russia fought Georgia in 2008, that was after Dick Cheney encouraged Georgia to attack this region of South Ossetia, this breakaway region, which is tied to Russia. And Cheney basically gave Georgia this impression that the U.S. was going to have its back, even though other people in the Bush administration were saying, no, we're not going to have your back. Don't do it. But Georgia's president, Saakashvili, went with Cheney and got his ass kicked. So that's the history of Georgia's invasion of Ukraine in 2008, too.
Georgia on my mind.
Georgia on my mind.
Story. Yeah.
But that's the part you also can't say on TV.
Right.
The U.S. is committed to de-escalation, but also says the White House is clear-eyed about what's going on here, especially given Russia's massive military buildup. Sandra?
Rich Edson reporting from the White House for us. Rich, thank you. Now let's turn to Trey Yangster live in Kiev for us. Hi, Trey.
Sandra, good morning. A Russian invasion of Ukraine could be just hours away, according to Western intelligence. Both countries today continue military exercises.
I like his Carhartt style
Russian
jacket.
forces conduct live tank drills near the border of Ukraine. They're part of a massive troop buildup that American intelligence officials believe could invade at any moment.
The truth that we have different information. And now the best friend for enemies, that is panic in our country.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky downplayed the threat of invasion when asked by Fox News, though he's ordered.
I'm recording this in my 5-star hotel room in the closet before I go downstairs to have a drink and party while I'm stoking fear of a war in this country and helping to destroy this country's economy. Because, by the way, like, airlines have stopped flying into Ukraine now because of the risk of a Russian invasion. And the Ukrainian president is like begging the U.S. to stop sowing panic, but they won't stop because people like this Fox News reporter need content to gin up war hysteria with. So unfortunately, sorry, buddy.
Sorry, Zelensky. Sorry, Ukrainian press. Yeah.
Troops to launch military exercises, much like the Russians.
We're less than 15 miles from the border of Crimea right now, where the Ukrainian National Guard and local police are conducting military exercises.
On Saturday, several thousand people marched through the streets of Kiev, singing the Ukrainian national anthem, holding signs reading "Putin is a war criminal." But despite the looming shadow of...
Look, I like this because it shows... So first of all, we got some thank you for this. I feel seen for the English language.
On Saturday, severoused thousand people marched through the streets of Kiev, singing the Ukrainian national anthem.
All right, so we got Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, Putin, and I believe, is that Corbyn? No, it's Milosevic. Sorry. It was, yeah. They look nothing alike. It was just so Milosevic. So, and all those guys are dead, and things have been going really well in Iraq and Libya. So,
and I'm pretty sure this protest was organized by a far right group, which they never mention who actually is organizing these protests, because it's pretty uncomfortable when you dig into what their views are. And actually, there's another clip we're going to play later on that is even more humiliating. It comes from NBC News, but
it's kind of hilarious that in retrospect, 2 seconds retrospect, that I thought that Milosevic was Corbyn. He looks nothing like him. But you can see if someone's not wearing their glasses, like I'm not, a very bloated, debearded.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, look at it. In your defense, there are some people out there who would liken Milosevic to Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah.
Because Jeremy Corbyn is someone who, in their eyes, is just as evil because he criticizes Israel. He stands up to NATO militarism. So there are people actually who would make some crazy people.
In fact, we should add him to that. Whoever made this, I'm just giving a suggestion. Add Corb. Add Jer.
Signs reading Putin is a war criminal.
Isn't that just such bad optics, such bad PR? Guys, I'm going to give you some free tips. You don't want to have the leaders, the deposed and killed leaders of countries that are now major shit shows. Like, do you want Russia to turn into Iraq or Libya?
They do. Yes, they do.
They do. Okay, they do. All right, there you go.
They exactly do. Yeah.
But despite the looming shadow of war, life in this capital city of 3 million people mostly continues as normal. There's no panic buying, no stockpiling.
We live normally just like before. We do not make any preparations for anything extraordinary. We know it may happen, but we hope it will not.
The disconnect here is difficult to describe. People behind me in the capital of Kiev are having lunch in cafes, while just a few hundred miles away there are Russian tanks staging along the border and conducting drills. Sandra.
All right, Trey Yangster reporting from Kiev.
Yeah, the disconnect can be easily explained by the fact that only the U.S. government and their media stenographers are the ones sowing panic about a Russian invasion. No one else thinks that it's going to happen. And it's like, this has been going on for for many, many weeks now. And still all these Western correspondents are acting puzzled. Like, gee, why are these locals not as concerned about a Russian invasion as we are? God, what's going on? Is Russia zapping their microwave weapons to pacify people and lose their sense of fear?
It's called Moscow syndrome. Yeah. All right. Shall we move on to the State of the Union?
A U.S. Army review of the chaotic U.S. exit from Afghanistan last summer was obtained by the Washington Post this past week. In the review, the commander on the ground during the operation reported that the military would have been, quote, much better prepared to conduct a more orderly evacuation, quote, if policymakers had paid attention to the indicators of what was happening on the ground, unquote. A few days ago, NBC News asked President Biden about the accounts in these documents.
It interviewed many military officials and officers who said the administration ignored the handwriting on the wall. Another described trying to get folks in the embassy ready to evacuate, encountering people who were essentially in denial of this situation. Does any of that ring true to you?
No. That's not what I was told.
That's not what I was told, the president said. Not what he was told. The documents go into detail about how, in the views of the service members on the ground, the U.S. ambassador and others in the Biden administration did not see the security threat for what it really was and did not adequately prepare for withdrawal, that there was a lack of urgency in the White House's National Security Council. The day Kabul fell to the Taliban, U.S. troops are described as going room to room at the embassy, pushing State Department personnel to prepare, but some were, quote, intoxicated and cowering in rooms, and others were, quote, operating like it was day-to-day operations with absolutely no sense of urgency or recognition of the situation, unquote. Now, President Biden's denial of this reflects the same attitude seen in...
Intoxicated, so like people were... U.S. service members were partying?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Poppy juice. Afghanistan's poppy juice, yeah. Apparently.
A Biden administration official, quote, about that allegation to the Washington Post, quote, were there any truth to it, we presumably would not be learning of it 6 months after the fact, unquote. Yeah, that's not how it works. Bad information not flowing upward, that's a long-standing tradition. Almost 10 years ago, as then President Obama prepared to try to leave Afghanistan, I asked him this question suggested by a soldier friend.
A soldier friend.
Do you feel that the reporting you received from the Pentagon fully represents what the on-ground commanders assess? Is there any disconnect between what leaders feel the public and president want to hear versus what is actually occurring on the ground?
One of the things that I emphasize whenever I'm talking to John Allen or the Joint Chiefs or any of the officers who are in Afghanistan is I can't afford a whitewash. I can't afford not getting the very best information in order to make good decisions. I think the reports we get.
You know, what's interesting actually is Joe Biden, to his credit, apparently, I mean, this could just be like revisionist history to make him look better, but he apparently warned Obama against doing a surge in Afghanistan and said it was hopeless. But Obama ignored him and did the surge. So the idea that Obama was demanding accurate information to make the best decision is complete fiction. He basically was a coward in the face of Pentagon pressure to escalate, and he caved like everybody always does. And you know, Jake Tapper trying to pose as a skeptic now is pretty disingenuous. And by the way, what's interesting is, look, this is interesting news, but did Jake Tapper make anything about the fact that Biden just announced that he's going to steal billions of dollars in Afghanistan's money and give it to 9/11 families, which is just such an outrage for so many reasons, starting with the fact that Afghanistan is starving under U.S. sanctions and under the U.S. theft of its resources. And so Biden announces he's just going to steal it. And I mean, I didn't catch all of CNN on Sunday, but I don't think Jake Tapper made anything about that at all. Instead, he's presenting this as the outrage, which just, it pales in comparison to what Biden just did.
Right. And could stop doing right now.
Yeah.
Like, we could actually save people's lives in Afghanistan. It's such a joke that we care about anything related to human life suffering.
Yeah.
Not starving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are relatively accurate in the sense that there is real improvement.
We know now the degree to which so many of these reports were whitewashes, so optimistic as to have been false. The thing is, President Biden knew this then. Biden has been a skeptic of the war in Afghanistan for years precisely because he did not buy into the rosy scenarios from Foggy Bottom and from the Pentagon.
Are you rejecting the conclusions or the accounts that are in this Army report?
Yes, I am.
So they're not true?
I'm rejecting them.
It's difficult to overstate how insulting Biden's sweeping rejection is to so many service members and veterans, given the full content of the 2,000 pages of documents in this U.S. Army investigation, which CNN has also obtained. Many accounts are from troops who were on the ground at the gates near the canal around the airport. Non-commissioned officers, junior officers.
Kid, that's a great question. When Craig Whitlock of the Washington Post published the Afghanistan papers, these internal records, Inspector General's reports from the U.S. showing that U.S. military leaders were lying to the public about their progress in Afghanistan, it didn't get that much coverage, if any coverage at all. I don't remember if Jake Tapper covered or not. And if he did, then credit to him. But certainly it was it did not get nearly the attention that it deserved. And now the big issue for people like Jake Tapper when it comes to Afghanistan is they're embarrassed with how the withdrawal went because it was pretty chaotic. And they're mad. They're mad at Biden for pulling out because these people love war. And their self-esteem is tethered to this idea of U.S. supremacy. And when the U.S. looks weak in their eyes, it hurts their fragile egos. And so that's what this is about. And it's not about, if it was about concern for the Afghan people, Jake Tapper would be even more indignant and would be covering what we just talked about, this theft that Biden just did of the people of Afghanistan.
We should do a show on
Joes, people with little political motivation to lie and heavy legal and moral obligation to tell the truth in sworn statements. People like the men and women that Biden visited with last November at Fort Bragg.
The thing that's amazing to me is how proud I am to be your commander-in-chief. You are the most incredible group of women and men, warriors that we've ever seen.
People in that North Carolina crowd served with Staff Sergeant Ryan Knaus, a special operations soldier stationed at Fort Bragg before deploying to Kabul. Testimonies about what happened are a big chunk of the report, and one details Knaus's final moments. He was one of 13 American service members killed during the Abbey Gate suicide bombing in August. Though the name and rank are redacted from the record, it's clear the service member giving the testimony knew Staff Sergeant Knaus. He describes the chaos at the scene, the crowds of Afghans pushing and shoving their way into Abbey Gate. He tells of being knocked to the ground by the explosion of the suicide bomber, getting up and dragging his unconscious but still breathing teammate, Staff Sergeant Knaus, away from further danger, trying to keep him from choking on his swollen tongue. He loads Knaus into the bed of a truck. He clears his weapon and tucks it beside his teammate, and the truck drives away.
You do so much, and your families give so much. I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. And so I just came because we wanted to thank you, tell you how much we care.
I don't doubt President Biden cares, but I do not understand why he would not manifest that care into taking this investigation more seriously, absorbing the tragic details, contemplating the obvious failures of his administration, failures that cost lives. Now, Biden always bristles at this because he feels confident that ending the war in Afghanistan was the right decision. But that's not the question at hand.
Oh, really?
It's not whether, but how the war ended. Yeah. And what that means to the people who were there when it did finally end. No part of these military interviews ring true because that's not what I was told. If this was not what you were told, then what was? And don't you have an obligation, sir, to be told? Don't you have an obligation to Ryan Knaus's family, to his grieving mother?
All right, look, again, this is just performative stuff. Biden is committing a huge crime right now. He's sentencing the civilians of Afghanistan, many civilians, to death. And Jake doesn't even mention it. He's mad about the conduct of a pullout that happened months ago. And it's just, it's like, this is how well the U.S. media works, how people can pretend to be skeptical while still propping up the most important aspects of state propaganda. And if Jake Tapper cared about Afghanistan, he'd be doing, on his show every single day, this decision by Biden to take the people of Afghanistan's money. Instead, he doesn't even mention it.
Right. Yeah. If he cared about how the United States executes its plans, if he cares about the deaths of people, I mean, they're not U.S. Aaron, to be fair, they're not Americans and they're not soldiers. So how important is their life really at the end of the day?
Yeah. Well, they're in the eyes of DC stenographers, they're not important. They don't matter. And again, I'm not saying that what Jake Tapper is doing here, this story is not important, but to focus on it with this level of indignation is such a smokescreen when something far worse is going on right now. Right.
And we could change that right now. Like nothing can be done about what already happened, but the policies that are being enacted right now.
That's right.
Yeah. Right. I mean, imagine having the power and exposure he has and not doing anything to raise his voice about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. All right. Should we go to the next? What do you got first?
I think the next clip is, it's not from the Sunday shows, but it's so incredible that I wanted to play it for everyone today. This is from MSNBC today. Chief Foreign Correspondent Richard Engel, who's in Ukraine doing the standard, war propaganda. He was taken to this media stunt, interviewing ordinary Ukrainians training for the looming Russian invasion. And what he didn't mention is that, but as we can see directly in his footage, is that this stunt was organized by the Azov Battalion, a far-right neo-Nazi militia inside Ukraine. And it's incredible. Let's play it.
Communities are taking matters into their own hands. Just across from Russia, in the city of Mariupol, some Ukrainians are preparing. Basic training for the whole family, learning first aid to treat gunshot and
Okay, see that logo right there? In fact, let's go back like 5 seconds. Can we do that? I'll pause it again. Yeah.
First family, learning first aid to treat.
Right here. Okay, remember this insignia, okay? Because we're going to come back to it. That's the Azov Battalion insignia. They're a neo-Nazi militia. And we're going to learn more about them in a second. But let's just watch the end of this clip.
Gunshot and shrapnel wounds. And weapons training. On a 7.62 caliber AK-47 is Valentina Konstantinovskaya. The 79-year-old is a retired accountant and a great-grandmother.
You're about my mother's age, and I can't picture my mother laying down on the concrete, learning how to fire an assault rifle.
You really threw his mother under the bus
actually
there.
be doing this?
Yes, if Putin comes, I should be able to shoot. The threat is very serious, she says, and I think every person in our country should be able to shoot from the window or on the street if the enemy comes.
So let's go back and let's look at that insignia one more time.
Just across from Russia, in the city of Mariupol, some Ukrainians are preparing. Basic training for the whole family, learning first aid to treat.
There it is, okay? So everyone see that insignia there? Everyone's got it in their memory. Now, Matt, let's go to the website I sent you where we can see what that insignia really means. This is from Wikipedia. So that right there, that's the insignia, right? We see Azov Battalion, and we zoom in, and you can read a little bit about them.
We've mentioned them, but we should review who they are.
Yeah, Azov Special Operations Detachment is a right-wing extremist and neo-Nazi Ukrainian National Guard unit, and is a right-wing extremist and neo-Nazi Ukrainian National Guard unit. It first saw combat experience recapturing Mariupol from pro-Russian separatist forces in June 2014. And in November 2014, it was initially incorporated into the National Guard of Ukraine. And since then, all members are contract soldiers serving in the National Guard of Ukraine. In 2014, the regiment gained notoriety after allegations emerged of torture and war crimes, as well as neo-Nazi sympathies and usage of associated symbols by the regiment itself, as seen in their logo featuring the Wolfsangel, one of the original symbols used by the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich. And the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich is a militia from Nazi Germany, if you click on that. And John Conyers, in one of his last acts in office, he passed an amendment that banned U.S. assistance to the Azov Battalion, and it passed, although it's been impossible to enforce. It basically gets ignored. But he was so concerned about it that that was an amendment that he passed. And here is Richard Engel doing PR for a neo-Nazi militia without any shame. And, you know, we hear all the time, there's all this concern in the U.S. about fascism and extremism. Well, here you have this mainstream network doing straight up propaganda for a neo-Nazi militia. And this just aired today on MSNBC.
I almost admire them for being so, like, not even cutting that out. Do you think they just don't notice who?
I don't think they know. So no, because they're so clueless. They're not journalists who do any kind of like minimal fact checking or diligence. They just get taken to these stunts by their handlers and they put it on air, and they, you know, and of course, I mean, even without the whole like Nazi component, just the idea of a great grandmother learning how to shoot a weapon. I mean, it's such an obvious media stunt. I mean, this is like, this is ridiculous, but they don't have the kind of critical thinking for that thought to compute. They just go there, put it on air, and they think they're doing a great job.
I'm just offended for Richard Engel's mother. Do you think she wants to be said? You think she wants him to describe her as someone who wouldn't get on the ground and shoot?
Well, I asked Richard Engel on Twitter, I said, is your mother a neo-Nazi?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because, you know, if she is a neo-Nazi, then she would do that.
Then she would do that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that our final clip from today?
That was our final clip. Yeah. Unless we have any bonus ones.
No, I don't. Oh, actually, I think we do have a bonus, right, Wilson? I believe we have a bonus.
Yeah, bonus Stelter, of course. There's always more Stelter to do.
Always more Stelter.
Or the acronym being BS.
BS, yeah. More BS. Any more BS?
Googling that old quote from John Stuart Mill, he talks about your rights end where my nose begins. So, like, your freedom sometimes infringes on others' freedom. And I think, Donnie, what we've seen in Canada is others are fearful of these protesters who are arguing for freedom. Right? Because of some of the fringe rhetoric. Can we play the Daily Show clip for a second? This was you appearing on the Daily Show, and then Trevor Noah had a reaction.
And because you're not vaccinated, is there stuff you can't do in Canada now?
Yeah, well, basically, if you want to compare Canada to anything, it's like Hitler's Germany and we're like the Jews, eh?
Hey.
You see, this is why we shouldn't be banning books.
I can't say it better than Trevor Noah.
Yeah, look, and I mean, there is that's a really big part of what we're seeing there, and that just doesn't come from anywhere, right? Because that terrible historical inaccurate comparison, we've heard members of Congress here repeated, but it's actually, I think a lot of it is based in, there's been so much demonization of public health officials.
You know, side note, not the most important thing, Katie, on the issue of hairstyles. I think the fade has gone too far. Just the contrast between
this country and elsewhere.
Right. Wait, hold on. Aaron's making a very important point. Sorry.
Well, I'm just saying, like the contrast between the lower part of the scalp and up here. I just think it's I just look at it. I'm like, ugh. I don't know. I don't like it.
Let's see. Hold on. Yeah, it's unprofessional. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it just looks very. Maybe on a younger man. It could, like on a kid, maybe it can work, but I don't know. Grown man, I don't know, guys. I don't know.
Public health officials in this country and elsewhere, that a lot of these people believe that public health officials are there to harm and hurt them, not to help them.
Right. It's the bigger picture here is online radicalization of lots of different kinds turns into offline action. And whether there end up being convoys in the U.S. or not, we're already seeing the impact of that in Canada. I feel like that's your beat, Tony, is it's the online radicalization, but then you see what happens in real life.
Absolutely. And look,
I can't wait till they cover the online radicalization pushed by Richard Engel of NBC by promoting neo-Nazis in Ukraine. I can't wait for that segment. That's going to happen, right?
Yeah, def.
I was just Googling that old quote from John Stuart Mill. He talks about your rights end where my nose begins.
Yeah, that's it, right?
So like your freedom sometimes infringes on others' freedom.
Yeah.
And I think, Tony,
Anyway. I think we learned a lot from that. We learned a lot about hairstyles that we don't like. We learned a lot about how cool. Never doubt the power of an Irish accent, though. It's pretty hypnotic. Yeah. Evgeny Antonov writes, pays us how many rubles? We're doing for the rubles. I mean, not how many rubles. What is that? What's that in dollars? Anyway, Evgeny, thank you for this. Let's see. Hello again. I've been watching USA Media for 5 years. I have a question. Does the media pay these experts for their 5-minute performances for the camera? No, they don't.
If you're an analyst, if you're an official analyst, they do.
They pay you if you're hired to be on their show regularly. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But if you're invited on, so right, he could be an analyst. I actually don't know.
Yeah.
But you're not invited on to do your expert opinion on a one-off, right?
Yes. No.
No. The reporter is trying to replace James Corden. Yeah, I did think that was him for a second. There was another thing that was just put up. What was the question? Credulous sources meet the oppressed fascist nation. Don't forget the pejorative report or the middle-aged McCarthy gates on the so-called left. Yep, sounds all good to me. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. Why don't we just, you know what? Here, before we end this, everyone take out your phones. All right. I'm going to go to Colin. Let's do it, Aaron.
Colin. Sorry, it's the last time. Never again, I promise.
All right, everyone go to Colin. Click on that link. Let's do it. Let's do it together, guys. Oh, wow. 2,000 rubles equals $25. Thank you. Wow. We got to stop now, but let's go to our.
And speaking of 2,000, I think we had over 2,000 viewers watching.
Thank you. We did.
Great.
We
So
love
thank
you
you,
guys.
everybody,
That
for
is
tuning
amazing.
in. Thank you for the likes, the comments, the questions. usefulidiots.substack.com to get more. And join us on Colin.
Yeah,
if you have an iPhone, if you don't have an iPhone, you can still listen in live on the web. And Colin, I'm told, will be coming to Android very, very, very soon.
Yeah.
So apologies for that. It's not fully available yet, but it will be soon.
All right, so go live. Ready? Should we go live?
Yeah, go live. My phone. Right. I have to go get my phone, but I'll
all right, you go get your phone. I'm gonna start it. Okay. All right, guys. Everyone, come into the show. Everyone, you got the link. It's in the description. So oh wait, hold on. Now I'm live. You can hear me now. Okay, we got one listener, guys. All right. Now we got some more listeners. Guys, we got some more, but we should have more than this. There are almost 2,000 people watching. We're gonna wait till we get a critical mass. We got 17. I think we should get at least 500 people coming in. What do you think? What should we do? Let's see. Just Aaron's coming on, so we're going to just what's the address? It's in the description, but let me give you the address again. Wilson, can you put the hold on one second. Matt. Here we go. Here's the address. Here it is. All right, we got some more people on. Okay, we got Aaron here. All right. That's the link. So keep coming, guys. Share this link. We got to get seriously, guys, we should get at least 100. I mean, are you guys that opposed to call-in? We got 10 people on here right now. You don't do cell phones. Okay. Well, you can do it you can do it on your desktop. Guys, it's really not that deep. Click that link. All right. Click that link. All right. Have a couple of callers. So great. Should we just get right to the call? Yeah. I'm going to end this broadcast. Bye, everyone.